Hey, welcome to Note Investor Podcast. I'm Dan Deppen, and today joined by Michael Kearse. So, Michael, how you doing?
Always good. How what's up there?
Good, good. So, appreciate you joining. A lot of folks may not know you. Maybe just start by giving us a little bit about yourself and what it is you do, creating notes.
Michael Kearse. I am a real estate investor. I have where I do a unique strategy. I'll call it the virtual wealth flipping method, where I buy properties cash all throughout the state of Pennsylvania, virtually. I don't see them in person. I don't touch them. I don't rehab them. I buy them on market or listed by realtors for 30, 40, 50K. And then I sell them as is to individuals who have not so good credit, who are tired of renting, on seller financing, owner financing, seller carryback, rent to own, installment sale, lease options. Everyone kind of thinks about it differently. Um, for, 3 times what I get them at. So if I get a property for $50,000, I'm generally selling it for 110, 120. I get a down payment and then I finance them the remaining payments over 30 years at a 10% interest rate. Uh, I started a little over 4 years ago before COVID, and
Mhm.
had a lot of success. I've done over 65. I currently have 53, and I'm looking to get to 20 by the end of Q1.
Nice. So you hold on to them after you create them.
I do. I do. I
Yeah.
try to hold on to them for as long as possible. Um, I do raise money to buy them now. The first 9 I got on my own. And then I was like, oh, now I see why fix and flippers learn how to raise money, right? Because my system was sound. I just needed more capital. So I started
Mhm.
to raise money. I've raised a little over 3.5 million in private funds in the last 3.5 years now. And the way that I borrow my money, I do interest only over 12 years. So usually within that time frame, I'm usually either replacing the lender or I'll sell the note, right, to kind of, exit and cash out. And I think that's how you and I kind of connected regarding the note and, of course,
Mhm.
the RMLO. Or I will go get traditional financing or maybe replace them with another lender or see if they want to extend for another 5 years. Yeah, but my goal is to try to keep them as long as possible.
Very cool. So maybe we can start with like how you find the properties. You said they're typically listed, but like what do you look for? Like how do you go about finding something that's a good candidate?
Yeah, great question. So I just go on Zillow. I set my filters to 50K or less. Homes only, single family homes, at least 3 bedrooms, right? Because I know most people will like a 3-2, a 3 bed, 2 bath.
Mm-hmm.
No HOA, listed by a realtor, and I only search within the state of Pennsylvania because I only purchase in Pennsylvania. It's a great market, and I'm in the Philadelphia market, so not a lot of opportunity there, right? But
Mm-hmm.
mid-state on all the way borderline Ohio, there are hundreds of them, and I just go through and I look at them and see which ones are in the best condition. Um, I put them all on a Google sheet. I rate them from like 1 to 5 regarding condition and then, days on market and how much they're asking. And I reach out to the realtor and say, hey, I'd probably be interested in buying this if it's in the condition that I see it's in. And
Mm-hmm.
I take them down.
Yeah, I mean those areas. So I'm actually from, or I think we talked the other day. Like I'm from some of those areas, like in Treverton specifically. But yeah, there's a lot of really small towns in those areas. They're kind of rural.
Yeah.
A lot of people in those areas tend to stay there
Hmm. Hmm.
forever, right? And so it's not a super liquid market, right? So when somebody wants to sell the house or rent a house, like there's not, I don't know that there's necessarily like a lot of inventory
Yeah. Or
most of the
competition.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or competition. Like there's no one looking at these deals. And, I just recently started coaching other people how to do this. And I've been telling them, a lot of people are struggling to get into real estate or they've been trying to do real estate investing for a while. And most people I talk to are either starting out trying to wholesale or do something creative. And it's such a struggle and such a so daunting to try to find an off market deal or a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I just say, hey, why don't you just do what I'm doing? Right. and it cuts out all of the BS and the headache. It helps them get ahead. But yeah, to your point, yeah, these these areas where I'm finding these properties, if that same property was closer to a metropolitan area or closer to me, they'd be worth 3 to 4 times as much.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't looked at it, but I'm willing to bet there's a lot of other areas in the country that have like a similar dynamic where you have
Absolutely.
small towns that are kind of rural, not a lot of competition, and
Absolutely, absolutely. So a lot of my students are, delving into some of the markets. I'm partnering with some of my students, in some of these other markets, and when I first started, Florida was very attractive. It seems like that slowed down, but yeah,
Mhm.
all throughout the country is just you'd be amazed of how cheap you can buy properties.
Yeah, I would guess Florida would just get more challenging with the big rise in insurance costs and some of the other problems.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but yeah, I like, when I first started doing this, I think Florida had like 100 something on market any given time, and now it's like closer to like maybe 20 or 30 on market deal
Hmm.
look ideal. So it drastically changed.
Yeah. No, why do you focus on like the on market ones? Is that just because they're easier to find or?
Absolutely, speed. So when I first got into real estate investing, I started out wholesaling and then virtual wholesaling because Philly was such a competitive market, right? You had a lot of investors from New York coming down and buying our cheaper properties. So I started off virtual wholesaling and it was a struggle. It was daunting, right? It would take me, maybe a month to find a deal and then only 2 weeks later for the deal to fall through because of variables I couldn't control. And I came across an opportunity that it wasn't a wholesale deal. But then when I looked at it from a creative real estate perspective, I was like, huh, I couldn't believe how easy it was to make that deal happen. I had come across Larry Gowen's Filthy Riches method on YouTube, and he was buying properties on market for $5,000 or less, regardless of the condition, and
Mhm.
selling it on crazy terms. 120 down, 89 a month for 3 years, 200 down, $30 a month for 6 years. And I was like, what?
That's
And
weird. I've never
it is
heard
weird.
that. Yeah, that's
So, when I did that deal by accident, I wanted to actually buy a property. And when my friend told me that you could buy a property on a credit card, I was like, okay. I took my wife's credit card at the time and I said, let me see if I can find something for $15,000 or less. Right. It was just so much easier versus trying to find an off market deal that could take who knows how long that could take, where I could just
Mhm.
go on market because I seen Larry Goins do it. And I was like, oh shoot, that property is only 15,000. Actually it was 8,000 the first one I did. I had my wife's credit card. I think she had like a $20,000 limit on the credit card. I just bought it on the credit card, right? It was only 8 grand.
That makes me think of the if you know who Mitch Stevens is, he's a
I do know who Mitch is.
yeah, so not that he was I didn't see him at Node Expo this year, but last year he gave this talk and he talked about his start. He did something similar except in a wildly like aggressive and irresponsible way. It worked out, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He was saying that if that didn't work, it was very similar to mine. I actually met Mitch when I had about my ninth property. He showed me how to position my turns where everything just exploded. But I did hear his story, and it was very similar to how I started. Where at least I told my wife, and I was explaining to her what I was doing, and she didn't get it. Where he didn't even tell his wife. So he said if that wouldn't have, if he would
Yeah, I
have,
won't go into the whole story, but yeah, she was like finding stuff in the mail and then he was getting in trouble. Yeah, it's not
yeah, yeah.
good.
But
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know Mitch very, very well, and it was kind of cool to. I was actually just talking to him yesterday. It was kind of cool to see someone at his level.
Hmm. Well, yeah, and he's been doing it for 40 some years. I don't know him personally. I've just listened to him speak
Yeah.
about how he went about it. So then once you find the property, like how do you go about setting up the terms so that you can sell it for more than what you paid for it?
Yeah, yeah. So the whole premise is that I'm taking someone that's paying $1,000 to rent and showing them how they can pay $1,000 to own. So when I get a property, I just look at what the market rent is, and let's say if the market rent is 900 a month, then I'll say, okay, if I can charge them 750 a month or 800 a month
Hmm.
for 30 years, I just do that, and I market it as such, right? I don't even
Hmm.
know what the sales price is. I just back into it later on when someone says, "Yeah, Mike, I want the property. I'm paying 1,300 a month for a 2 bedroom. Yeah, I would love to pay 800 a month for an entire house that I can own." So that's how I do it, right? It's really a rental game.
Mhm. Well, and I guess then like the next question would be, and I have my own ideas on what the answer is, then why doesn't that borrower just go buy the house through the realtor and get a loan from a bank?
Yeah, I had someone else
Yeah.
kind of ask the same thing, but they don't have the resources to. Oftentimes, they don't have the cash, they don't have the credit to borrow. I don't think banks really lend on anything less than 75 or 70K. But anyway,
Or even like the, from what I understand, they're these days their lending threshold seems to be even a lot higher than that. Like I'm seeing a lot of seller finance notes being generated in the 200s and even in the 300s
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
that reason. Because yeah, under a certain threshold, banks just don't like to lend. So like I think that person who's renting, they're a little bit stuck because they've either got a way to pay, find a way to pay 50,000 in cash, which is rough in those areas. Like not many people are going to do that, and banks just generally aren't going to lend too much on those kind of properties.
Yeah, but most of the time it's they have not so good credit. They don't have a good work history. A lot of them are on some type of social security or disability, and they're just not in a position to do so. Though, so the people that buy my properties have counted themselves out of homeownership. They never even thought it was possible. They like so when they see my ads and how attractive it is, oftentimes they think it's a scam. They get pretty excited.
Mm-hmm.
Just was talking to someone today, and he was like, couldn't believe it. He was just like, "Oh my God, thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, we want it. We want it." Because home ownership, man, a lot of us who are fortunate to have homes, and I say fortunate because we take it for granted. Imagine waking up tomorrow and the bank telling you, "Oh, you got to leave. I'm selling this property. You have 30 days." Right? That's your whole livelihood has just been flipped upside down. Not to
Mm-hmm.
mention, let's say if you have children that are live in a certain school district or you have pets. I talk to people who can't even qualify to rent because rents are so high and they want first month, last month security. They want to do credit checks. They have pets. I run into people that's are in been in hotels for weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And to your point, I've done seller financing for, you know, $200,000 properties, right? It's uh
Yeah.
it's it's not just for low income or first time home buyers. There are people who make great income. They just don't fit into the big banks box. So I become the bank.
Right. Yeah, because the bank's boxes are increasingly restrictive, right? And it's interesting to me because after the financial crisis, they put all the Dodd-Frank ability to repay rules and other things like that in place, but banks seem to have tightened like well beyond what they're required to. And my theory on that is they're so worried about commercial blowups, they're trying to manage their risk, and so they're not being aggressive at all
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
on the residential side.
you're right, man. And it carves out a underserved population and opportunity for investors like myself, which is what I've been doing since COVID. Like I started doing this since COVID, and it's just been amazing. It's changed my life.
Now, was that something you started because of COVID, or was that just kind of like the way the timing worked out when you
Yeah, it was just
happened
the
to
way
find
that
it?
timing worked out. Again, right? I thought that I wanted to create a wholesaling empire, right? I wanted to have, a transition coordinator, an acquisition, and I'm watching all these people on YouTube and I'm trying to learn how to wholesale. But
Mm-hmm.
fortunately enough, I was always a student, right? And I started to learn about the other things that you could do in real estate. There's so many different ways to make money. And because I started to get a little bit better at finding potential deals, you then learn that not every deal is a wholesale deal. Maybe it's one you
Mm-hmm.
should actually buy. Maybe it's one you should hotel. Maybe it's one you should do a wrap or to try to get via sub two, right? And that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
what happened with the first one. And because I was, watching different podcasts and learning and reading every day, I met everything kind of lined up and it just happened that way. But to your point, I didn't plan on a pandemic happen. And
Mm-hmm.
in fact, I think it was kind of cool that I was growing so fast and having so much success during COVID, by the time I started to bring the opportunity to private lenders, it just made everything look so much more solid, right? That I already had done 9 in this climate,
Hmm.
having that type of success so quickly.
Yeah, and the fun thing about these is once you kind of get your formula down and do more, they become kind of rinse and repeat.
Exactly, exactly. Like
Yeah.
I'm such a different person, man. I was so scared doing that first deal. Now, when the same things that used to, I would lose sleep over the night. Now I'm like, I'm so confident, and been through so many battles and came out with so many scars. Now it's kind of like I just know how to like navigate things and approach things with a level head. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've had kind of a similar thing, not so much on the creating note side, but on the working like non-performing note side. Like in the beginning, things that would completely freak me out and give me heartburn and would probably do that to most people the first time. Now I'm like, oh, okay, I'll figure that out. Or I've seen that before. Like I'll
Yeah,
or if that
exactly.
bites me, something will go okay over here and it'll balance out.
Exactly. I know exactly what you mean. So I was just thinking to myself the other day, like it's kind of cool just kind of sit back and observe myself and how much I've changed and grown over the years and how I see things now.
Hmm. Yeah. So let's see. So now that you're creating a lot of these, like what's next? Is it kind of just scaling it up or?
Yeah, that's kind of like the next phase, and that's kind of like why I reached out to Mitch the other day, right? It's kind of like, one, what does that look like? Do I want to do it? Is it really worth it? Because this has kind of made me lazy. Like it's such a lifestyle business. I mean, the coaching, I've kind of put a little bit more emphasis on coaching others and helping people, and that takes up some of my time. Like right now, I'm booked out 2 weeks. Like I don't think people can even find anything on my calendar link. I'm so booked up, right? I'm talking
Hmm.
and trying to help them. But so many different things, like starting to look at maybe commercial loans and the opportunity there where I can cash out refinance. I was talking to someone, he was telling me about a guy that was doing something similar to what I was doing, but he would tell people, go pick a house. I don't care how much it is. It could be $1 million. I'll buy it and then I sell or finance it to you. And I've done something like that similar numerous times. But
Hmm.
and I think I'm starting to understand how I can position this, right? Like if I can find whether it be an institutional note buyer or maybe a group of note buyers who have deep pockets where they would not only lend me and I kind of did this with one of my lenders. They would lend me the money, right? Regardless of the property,
Hmm.
knowing I already have the buyer in place. I've already underwritten them. They've already agreed to my terms. And let's say it's a $250,000 property. They've already agreed to seller finance it from me for 350, right? Um,
Hmm.
that would be amazing. And then I would hold the note for a year or two. And then that same lender or that same note buyer that lent me the money would then buy the note. And then we just keep repeating that. Like I would love to set some type of system up like that. Because I've gotten to a point, I've developed such a presence in Pennsylvania where individuals wouldn't like the properties that I have listed for sale. So I say, hey, well, go buy one as long as it meets these requirements, as long as it's 50K or less, right? As long as it's
Hmm.
bedroom. And that has gone great to the point where people have come to me and say, Mike, well, I want you to buy me this $250,000 house. I'm like, right. I don't have as much confidence to be able to raise that money as I do if the property was 50 or 60. Now I've done it a handful of times, but to answer your question, those are some of the things that I'm starting to look at like now. And I was having a discussion with someone today, like, if you know people who really want to get into this note business and really like the paper, right? If we can set up some type of business situation like that where they would be my bank and back me because I can go get the people that want these types of opportunities and I could put the paper together for you, right?
Hmm.
I'm starting to realize people really, really love the paper, right? I like the cash flow. I like doing the deals, right? And working with people and helping them reach the goal. But I already have like I guess the presence and the identity in the space where people have come to me saying, Mike, well, I want one for about 300,000. I had to turn them down. So those are some of the things that I'm kind of looking at now. It's kind of like the next phase.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of need for the notes. Like I think if you're like a buyer of notes, if you look at the, well, one, like the return level relative to the risk is pretty good, and they're more stable than stocks. So like investors kind of get this fixed income type return at you typically a much higher yield than your bonds or treasuries and things like that, to where you're typically going a little bit above the long-term average of the stock market, but you don't have all the crazy volatility. So especially when people get a little close to retirement or in retirement where they don't want the volatility, those become nice, and there's a lot of demand. But there's really not a whole lot of people creating these things, or at least
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
seller finance one. So if you can create them, you're in a really nice position
yeah, yeah.
in
And
the
that's,
market. Yeah.
yeah, like I said, I'm starting to realize that. So it's starting to come together. Like that's really what I want to do. I want to, because at the end of the day, for me, the way that I borrow, I'm really leveraging other people's money to create cash flow. So if I could take
Hmm.
it further, and if I can just keep recycling their money, like that will probably be like that's what I want to do. I want someone to say, Michael, we will buy 105% of the value of the note, and we will lend you the money. Just keep bringing us the notes. Oh man,
Hmm.
I would be like, that would be amazing. And then I can systematize that, right? I could systematize that where maybe I can bring on two or three people, get a small virtual office, and we're just
Hmm.
rolling, right?
Yeah,
Um,
the nice thing about this stuff is like it kind of lends itself to systematizing. Like every deal might be different, but they all have the same set of parameters. So it kind of lends itself to like building a formula, building a process to where you can do it over and over again. So the other thing I was going to ask you though is you said you are starting to use some outside funding. Like how are you finding that, or how do you go about finding outside funding for deals right now?
you mean like the money that I raised from private lenders, or you mean like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah,
Yeah, like, from investors, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I started doing that 3 years ago. I just went and yeah, I just purchased a course, right? I'm not sure if you're familiar with Ty Lopez. He's the one that kind
I'm
of,
not, but yeah.
yeah, he just a online guy that just became really, really popular maybe 10 years ago now. Um, and one of the things that he said was, in business, anytime that he wants to learn something or anytime he wants to get into a new venture, he just finds out who's the best at it and hires them as a coach or tries to learn from them. So
Hmm.
I've taken that mantra and everything that I've done since I started doing entrepreneurship for myself. And so when I did the nine, right, I did nine with my own money. I ran out of all my funds, right? Credit cards, personal loans, self-directed IRAs. I was like, oh, now I see why fix and flippers raise money, because the system is sound. I just need more
Hmm.
capital. So I was like, okay, I need to find out how to learn how to raise money. And YouTube University, how to raise money, right? And then I start watching people saying, well, I raised, 1 million in 2 years, or I raised 500,000 in 6 months. And I was looking for, okay, who's teaching them? Ah, this is the guy, right? And the first person was
Hmm.
Dan Zyskovsky. And I
Oh,
purchased his,
Dan Zatowski.
yeah, Dan Zyskovsky. Yep.
Yeah, I
Purchased.
was just talking to him at Node Expo like a couple days ago
Okay.
before we
Yep. Yep.
recorded
Yep.
this.
Yep.
Yeah, I know Dan. I need to have him on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he actually seen like someone doing a testimonial, because I actually purchased a course to learn how to teach others how to do this.
Hmm.
And I've had success in my course, obviously. So they did a testimonial on me. And then he reached out to me and said, Mike, I would love to learn how you're doing it. Let's set up a call. And I'm like, he probably doesn't even know that I learned how to raise money from him. And now he wants to learn how I'm doing my coaching. But anyway,
That's funny.
so, yeah, I purchased his course, and it was more of a traditional old school course, right? I come from the space where everything is the internet. You can make money online, right? I came up in
Hmm.
this. So his was more like traditional, like rent a hotel space, right? Have everyone come out, have light refreshments, do a 2 hour presentation, right? But he gave me kind of like some of the I guess the tried true tenets that will never change, right? How
Hmm.
to coach people with. with the deal, how to charge them, how to present. But it wasn't until Mitch, right? I went to Clubhouse. Back then, Clubhouse was real popular. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing this unorthodox thing. Chill, Gemma, chill. And I'm trying to learn how to raise money. I want to get more deals. And someone was like, oh, I know what you're doing. Go talk to Mitch, 1000houses.com. You'll have more money than you ever needed. And that's how I was introduced to Mitch. And it was really just the way that he borrowed that really just took off. Um, and then I met a guy by the name of Chris Nagel a little bit before I started raising money. He's teaching privatized banking with whole life insurance policies, how to build your own wealth and things like that. And
Okay.
I presented to him, and he was like, Mike, you are going to kill it. You're not asking for a lot of money. There's a lot of people that, want to lend on opportunities, but they don't have a quarter of a million or 100 grand. You're only asking for 30, 40, $50,000. I know a lot of people that would love to lend on this. Then once I learned how to use Mitch's terms, right, interest only with the balloon, and I went back to Chris, or I think I just sent an email blast to everyone in the network as it was growing. He was like, Mike, go here, sign up for this, pay that. I'll have your deal funded in a week. And I thought he was blowing me off.
Mm-hmm.
Created what's called the Private Money Club, which is the only club that I've ever been able to find that is real. There are actually real people in there, everyday people who have liquid money. And to your point earlier, they're tired of the volatility, um,
Mm-hmm.
like real estate, but they never, got in or they didn't know how to do it themselves. Or that he's showing them how to create money in their whole life policies, and then he showed them how to be a lender. So it's a marketplace. And so it's kind of like our own private Facebook group, right? Where I can just
Mm-hmm.
someone or I can promote my deal. I just did a presentation. They have Money Mondays. I just did a presentation today and I already have two people that want to talk to me this week who potentially want to lend on a current deal that I have. And so it's been great. So 90% of the 3.5 million that I've raised so far, 90% of it have come from that private money club. And you know, I think I think people are really blown away of what I'm doing because it's so unorthodox and it's so cool and it's so amazing of how well I've done with such a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I think the track record, right? And then three, I think the way that I present, right, it's genuine, it's not salesy, and I'm able to show someone in a very, very small amount of time how I make money, how they make money, and how I'm helping the end bar as well. So it's a true win-win-win situation.
Yeah, it's interesting because like that model that Mitch and others put together like 40, 45 years ago or whatever it's been still works, but there's still a pretty small number of people doing it. I'm a little surprised it hasn't caught on
I say the
more.
same thing. I say the same
It's not
thing.
really any different what those guys were doing in like 1982, you know, it's not really.
Exactly. And then one of the things that really let me know, right, is that when I was watching different investors, right, and I was plugging into different podcasts and I was listening to different people, the ones who have a track record are the ones you want to listen to, right? I'm listening to the Mitch Stevens, to the guys that are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
They're around for a reason, right? When the crash happened, who were the investors that were able to go in and really snatch up everything? The ones who had the cash flow, the ones who owned their properties, the ones who were liquid and could be liquid quickly. Everyone kind of fell in love with the fix and flip, right? Everyone kind
Mm-hmm.
of fell in love with the Burr method. Everyone really fell in love with apartment buildings or multi-units or wholesaling. Like when I started getting into real estate, it seemed like everyone was wholesaling because you could make a lot of money. But I think
Mm-hmm.
for some reason it got lost in translation, or maybe they tried to hide the information that real estate is really about building wealth. And cash is king and cash flow is king, right? And people really fall in love with those high ticket transactions when we talk about wholesaling and fix and flipping. They lose sight of you want to learn how to remove yourself and allow your money to work for you. And maybe it's because of me always listening to people like Ty Lopez and reading wealth books before I got into real estate. But I always understood the power of being able to earn income while you sleep. And that's always what I was looking for. And And now I think because, I'm probably I'm a new age marketer compared to a Mitch or a Scott Jelinek who does this, right? They're older.
Yeah.
They don't know how to market like I do. And so
Hmm.
right now I'm bringing this information into a whole new generation that they think I created fire.
Yeah, I think there's two pieces to that. There's the updated marketing,
Yes.
and then also the operations. Like there's a lot of people that do it with like legal pads and financial calculators when it's like very easy to throw stuff into spreadsheets and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all that. But I think it's super cool that you've gone down these different rabbit holes on YouTube videos and taking courses, but then like you took all that stuff and did something with it. Like I talked to a lot of people that they do a similar thing, but then they never actually go and do the stuff. And so they spend a lot of time learning, but then they don't necessarily go apply it. It's cool that it seems like everything you look at, like you take it and then go run with it. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think I credit that to my desire for wanting more. And then early on, like when I first graduated high school, I got into like it was kind of like a multi-level marketing business. Um,
mhm.
I mean, even down to their copy, the way that they like, if you remember, like Career Builders and Monster, like even
Yeah.
the way that they would present their opportunities, um, it drawed you in. Like they were just master salesmen and master marketers. But what
Hmm.
it was a sales role. It was like a sales role where you would come into an office, you would be connected with another salesperson, and that would be the interview. And they would take you out into the field and they would go out and try to close business. So they
Hmm.
would do door to door or B2B, or they would have tickets and they would really try to walk up to someone and get them to give them money. And it was all on, certain cores of sales and marketing, right? 4 steps to a conversation, the 5 impulses of human beings, how to get someone to like you very quickly. But it was really built on work ethic. Like every
Hmm.
rain, sleet, hell, snow, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday, no, Monday through Saturday, we were out there hitting the pavements, finding the no's, trying to find the yes, and working on personal development, reading books like Think and Grow Rich. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that early on in my career, 18, 19, 20, right? Fresh out of college, going through that experience really molded me, even to the point when I would get into a career at a 9 to 5, man, I would just blow by everyone, right? I was like,
Yeah.
because of my work ethic, it just seemed that type of work seemed so much easier compared to what I did. And I was always a curious person, and I understood like I think that's one of my superpowers. Like I'm a quick study, and
Hmm.
I know like wow, if I can learn that, like that would give me such an advantage in what I really want, right? So I would always take advantage of opportunities to learn things. And then, like I said, once I got introduced to how to make money online, I think everything really changed for me. And yeah, I'm just always leveraging the things that I've learned in the past and just trying to see how I can use it to my advantage.
Well, that's super cool. I think there's a lot of good ideas for folks in there. So thanks for joining us again. So how can people find you if they
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
connect with
absolutely.
you and learn more or
Yeah,
learn from
absolutely.
you? Yeah.
Michael at michaelkearse.com. So my first name at my full name, michaelkearse.com. Or they can text me. Text is probably the best way to reach me because I'm just so busy. 856-979-1627. Those are probably the two best ways to reach out to me. And then, yeah, let's connect. If you want to talk real estate, if you want to learn a little bit more about my strategy, or if you are interested in buying notes, or if you're interested in earning a great 12% on your money, um, I'm open to chat. Absolutely.
Yeah. And people are always interested in buying notes. That's like the number one question I get is like, where can I go to buy notes? So
Oh, well, send them my way, man. Send them my way. And I need to get plugged into, and like I said, now that I'm kind of thinking about how I would like to set this up long term and really scale it, if I can get with more people who are interested in buying notes, and if we can set up a partnership where they would be the bank for me to buy the properties, that's the key right there. Because now I know people who would love these types of opportunities, and we can put some great things together to really grow together.
All right. Well, sounds great, man. Really appreciate you coming on.
Same here. Thanks so much for having me.